This video was sponsored by Storyblocks. Go to storyblocks.com/YouTube or click the link in the description box below to start downloading and get started today. If you are interested in checking out their website, then go to the link that I provided in the description box below, because if you do, then you can receive a 7-day free trial. So that's pretty cool. You can just test out if you like it or not, and then just book it if you don't. So you can download anything from 400,000 images in their member library if you do end up going through with this link, and you can save up to 60% off on the marketplace content. I think this would be a very useful tool for graphic designers and animators, and if you are looking for reference pictures, then definitely check out this website because they have a lot of images that you can choose from. So in this video, I thought I would show you guys how to do a monochromatic watercolor study or piece. Monochromatic studies are a great tool for beginners to experiment with because you become more familiarized with how watercolors quote-unquote work without the stress of figuring out how to make your piece with different color. Even if you're painting with acrylic, then you can do a pre-study for your piece with watercolors to determine if your composition of your piece is working or if the tones of your piece is working. It's a really nice self-check to make sure that your piece is going to end up okay. I recommend just doing what I'm doing now, where I start with the most opaque the watercolor paint can be, and then gradually move down to the lightest it can be. With the most opaque paint, you'll notice that it's going on very, very dry onto the paper. And this is because the ratio of paint to water is really drastic. So I have a lot of paint and very, very little water. And when this happens, there's not enough water for the paint to really spread nicely onto the paper. But then you'll see later on, as I make the paint lighter and lighter, it becomes a lot easier to spread onto the paper. Another word of advice is that the more water you have with your paint, the lighter it's going to dry. So you have to keep that in mind. Even if it looks dark on the paper or darker than you expected it to be, it might dry lighter because of how much water there is with that paint. Now, doing these gradient studies are really good practice to really control and manipulate the paint, and it's where you learn how much water to use to get a certain tone. So I really recommend doing this exercise for beginners. So let's say that you have a really colorful reference image and you're having trouble determining the different values in that image. A sort of cheat that you can do is drop your picture into Photoshop, or you can drop it into any photo app that you have on your phone and turn it black and white. Once you have it black and white, it's a lot easier to see the different values of that image. If you're still having trouble working with the different tones because it's black and white and not a color that you're using, then I recommend changing the hue of the image, and I'll show you how to do that in Photoshop. Once you have this, it's basically a complete guideline to show you how to go about painting the image. So whenever I do my monochromatic studies, I really focus on the composition of a piece. Because you get rid of all the colors, what's left is the composition and the values of the piece, really. With one color studies, I really like to manipulate the composition to see if I can make it better, and I like to just use different tones to see what looks best for that piece in the end. I'm going to start on a piece just to show you guys how I go about doing a monochromatic study, and I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't use a reference picture for this, and I had no idea what I was doing or going with for this piece. It kind of just spontaneously happened, and I'll do this sometimes. Usually I like to plan out the composition of my piece and sketch out different varieties, but for this one I really just wanted to see what I would produce if I just went for it. So this is what came out of it. So generally what I'll do with one color studies is I'll start with the lightest color or the lightest shade or tone and work darker from there, because unlike oil paints where you start dark and then move on to your lighter tones, watercolors are the exact opposite, where you want to start from the lightest and move your way down to the darkest. This is because it's really hard to bring back a lighter color if you've already laid down a darker tone. So another time that I like doing these watercolor studies is when I'm doing film studies. So I really like just watching a black and white film and doing compositional studies of different scenes. Usually old black and white films have really interesting compositions that you can really study. So for example, I did a super quick study of Pasolini's Mamma Roma, and this was really fun to do because I got to really analyze what different tones were in that specific shot, how he was placed in the middle of the frame cutting through all these horizontal elements. I recommend doing this for anyone who's really trying to work on doing quick studies and for somebody who loves watching films. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it helped. If you end up testing out these watercolor studies, then definitely post it on Instagram and tag me at Paraflare because I would really love to see what you guys end up using it for. So